Welcome to the A to Z of licensed games, a series of vids about games that take something from something else. Now today's video will be bookended by superheroes. Our shitroom will be all about one superhero franchise that pretty much always gets it wrong. But first we'll be looking at one that tends mostly to get it right. The nerdiest comic book hero of them all, good old Spider-Man. Now there are obviously some quite rubbish Spidey games, Return of the Sinister Six, Spider-Man Web of Fire on the 32X, just to name two, but generally Spidey does alright. Being a regular human dressed in hero's clothing, he's still just about vulnerable enough to work in game form, while having plenty of cool stuff that he can do. And that formula of vulnerability plus cool stuff is something Spidey shares with Batman, and it's where our shitroom hero, Superman, completely fails. So long as the know-how's there, you've got all the ingredients you need to make a good Spidey game, just as long as you don't get drunk and burn the fuck out of everything. Anyway, let's look at a couple of the best Spider-Man games. Not all of them, because I kinda need to dial things down a little, but hey, enough to be getting on with. First up is a very nice little classic for the Mega Drive, Spider-Man vs the Kingpin. The cigar-chomping baddies caught the spider in a big web of framing, and he has to go find the evidence to clear his name. It's a very solid and surprisingly expansive little action title, one that can be quite tricky at points, but the gameplay and control is solid enough to let you persevere, and the depth here is just enough for me to put this ahead of other solid 16-bit efforts like LJN's Maximum Carnage, one of the better console-only beat-em-ups of the time for sure, but this game holds the fonder memories for yours truly. If you can, I would suggest that you get your hands on the Mega CD version of this one. Not only is the soundtrack given a nice little red book sheen, but there's quite a bit of extra goodies to be found in the game itself. Very good game indeed, nice little Genesis, Mega Drive, whatever action title. Next up, Spider-Man for the PS1, made by Neversoft, a hot property at the time thanks to their Tony Hawk's success. And it turns out they could do a damn fine job on Spidey as well. Not being funny, but these guys must have had some serious Spidey anoraks working on their team. The plot is chock-a-block with various other comic characters, Stan Lee narrates the game, I imagine there's tons of references, you can collect actual comics, and there's even a what-if mode that takes major events from Marvel Comics and changes the scenario around a little. This must have been a labour of love for Neversoft, and it does show because the game is very good. There's fine web slinging, decent combat, and quite good graphics for the PS1 to boot. I mean, if you're a fan of the comics, then it goes without saying that this game is an absolute must. And our third Spidey game would be based more off Sam Raimi's blockbuster films. Now would that damage the license in any way? Heh, hell no. Treyarch took the reins for the film's tie-in games, and in 2004 they struck gold with SpiderMan II, one of the best movie tie-ins ever made. Until Rocksteady's Batman games, this was perhaps the definitive superhero game. It captures Spider-Man perfectly. New York City is like a little sandbox that you can move about in, not of the GTA level, but enough to just drift around, kind of like Crackdown, a game that may well have been inspired a bit by this. Web slinging is actually a skill that needs to be mastered, and it does take a bit of time, but with practice you can fly all around NYC, and it just feels so damn good. That flying is, to be honest, the best thing about this game. I play Spider-Man 2 just to swing about the streets as fast as I can, maybe climb a skyscraper or two, save a few bags, beat up a few bad guys, jump on some cars. It's fun, and almost as relaxing as video games can get. Treyarch really did hit on something special with this game, and it solidified Spider-Man as one of the good licensed game franchises, at least one that's worth paying attention to. It's okay to like these games, and if you've never happened to come across them, well, you should fix that post-haste. Okay, time for a big feeding frenzy. Lots to mop up, so let's get on with it. Now I couldn't let S go by without a mention of Sam and Max. Some might forget that this LucasArts series did start out as a comic book. Now this is of course their first classic adventure, Sam and Max Hit the Road. Like so many other LucasArts games, it's a big, well-designed barrel of pointy-clicky laughs, like a hug in computer game form, with puzzles that'll ever so slightly tax your brain, not much in the way of bullshit to worry about, and two heroes that'll stay in your heart forever. It's a classic, what more can I say? Except to just move on to another, slightly less loved partnership, Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo. One of the many budget high-tech games plucked out from Hanna-Barbera cartoons, this Amiga title is somewhat surprising because the resulting game is actually a very entertaining platformer. It's not brilliant, but when you consider that it stars one of the most irritating characters in the history of animation, well, it's better than you might expect. Now, here's something weird for the Amiga, a game based off Suburban Commando. Yes, you heard that correctly, the film starring Hulk Hogan as an intergalactic space warrior named Shep, you know, like the dead dog, who somehow ends up in Anytown, USA. Trust me, if you've not seen it, it's every bit as good as it sounds. But why the Amiga? I mean, of all the things. No one will ever know. But we'll always be grateful for it, as Suburban Commando is, in actual fact, a lost masterpiece. It's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, a true unheralded classic. Only kidding, it's shit. However, this next game is a bit of a lost gem, Super Back to the Future 2. This is quite a nice platformer, once again, with an almost intolerably charming looking Marty McFly at the centre of it. It's quite possibly the only good game in the whole Back to the Future franchise. However, for reasons that are frankly beyond any kind of reason, the game was only ever released in Japan. And if you really want something off the wall along the same lines, well, how about Sergeant Saunders Combat, a Super Family strategy game with a 1960s American TV war drama licence stuck on the front of it, and this too never left Asia. I mean, what, was Vic Morrow really big in Japan or something? I don't get it. I mean, I really feel like I should just be throwing F-bombs about right now, you know? But not to worry, because I can let Tony Montana do that for me.
You better not be some fucking communist pig, muchacho.
Now, Scarface The World Is Yours came out around the same time as the Godfather game we covered so many videos ago. The general feeling seemed to be that if all these sandbox games like GTA or whatever were going to rip off old crime movies, well, the best thing to do was just cut out the middleman and stick the actual licenses on top. And so you got things like this, and The Godfather, not to mention unadulterated cack like Reservoir Dogs and The Sopranos' Road to Respect. Now this is one of the better games in the crop, but one just can't help but feel when playing it that, well, you'd be having more fun if you were just playing Vice City. And finally, here's Snoopy's Silly Sports Spectacular for the NES. This has been on my radar for a while as something at least worth looking at. I'm not sure why, as it's basically just a rather odd collection of minigames, some of which are kind of creative in their implementation, but they always seem to fall just short of being fun. On the whole though, it's merely average, as opposed to awful. The odd thing about this game though is that in Japan, the same game was released, only with Donald Duck as the star. Why? Well, we shall never know. Okay, so we are going to do something a bit different in the shit room this time, because we'll be looking at Superman. And what we're doing is we're not actually looking for bad games, we're going to try and find good ones. Why? Well, because Superman is quite possibly the worst licensed game franchise of all. There are lots, and I do mean lots, of Superman games, and basically none of them have anything approaching a good reputation. Several of them are regarded amongst the worst games ever. At first it seems surprising when you consider how big Superman is, but then you think about it. Superman is completely incompatible with games. You can't possibly make an authentic one, as to do so, well, he'd have to be invincible and unstoppable. He has no limits, he's frickin' Superman. That alone limits what you can do with the character in a game to the most basic of mechanics, and it means that virtually any video game interpretation of Superman is going to be a massive, crippled disappointment. And then you just add that general licensed game incompetence into the mix and, well, the result is, more often than not, a massive great steaming pile. But like I said, there are lots of Superman games, and so, law of averages, you know, one of them must be good. What? Well, let's find out. The original Atari 2600 game is our starting point. It seems as though you have to rebuild a bridge that's been blown up, finding pieces of it with the help of your X-ray vision. Interestingly, I think that this is the only Superman game where he actually is invincible. You know, so there's that. But yeah, this is really, really freaking old. 1979 to be precise. Nowadays, trying to understand it is kind of like interpreting a cave painting. You might get very close, but you're never going to know the whole truth, and you'll certainly struggle to play it. So next up is an early C64 game with the name. Now the first bit has you fighting Dark Sea, dark side, whatever. It has you fighting him in the street. And it seems like there's lots of mirrors about and you have to reflect shots off them, something? I don't get it. And the second part has you fight him while barriers fly about at the bottom. What you got to do is you got to aim your shots carefully to hit him, all the while avoiding or shooting his. Neat concept, but all you have to do is go down to the bottom of the screen and hold fire to win. Nice try, but game just doesn't work. Sticking with the Commodore, here's Superman Man of Steel, which is kind of like a poor man's Space Harrier, although there is several different parts to this one. This one's actually not terrible, but it's absolutely crippled by one of the worst multi-loads I have ever seen. Seriously, everything requires a load. There's like 2 loads between the stages. The gameplay isn't bad, but, well, compared with the multi-load, is it enough for the game to be considered good? Nah. So we switch to consoles, and immediately we're greeted with one of the worst Superman games. This awful, awful NES title. The Statue of Liberty talks and looks like an anime woman. A man who can fly around the world in minutes takes the frickin' subway. The soundtrack sounds like music falling down the stairs and breaking its neck. And so much more. Ooh boy. This game is just, yeah, it's laughable. For all the crap Superman 64 gets, honestly this game deserves just as much, if not more. So yeah, we're off to a bad start. So maybe the arcade can give us a bit more spectacle. This 1988 Taito game ended up being Superman's only arcade outing, and yeah, it stinks. Superman's flying just looks so damn goofy, and really the game is just a straightforward punch-kick arcade title, only with the ability to fly just chucked in. And considering that Taito made the game, of all people, this is very disappointing by their standards. The quest to make a good Superman game then fell to Sunsoft, who made 2 of them for 16-bit consoles, Plain Old Superman and The Death and Return of Superman. Now perhaps if the license had got to them in their 8-bit days, you know, Gremlins 2, Journey to Silius or whatever, they might have produced something good. However, Sunsoft seemed to lose all their talent when the 16-bits came about, and it definitely shows here. These games just aren't anything at all. You got a repetitive, boring side-scroller, and a repetitive, boring beat-em-up. And on the Mega Drive, there's at least 50 better examples of both genres kicking about. I can barely think of something interesting to say about either of these games, and therefore I'm not going to. And guess what? Things don't get much better, because next the license fell in the hands of a dirty French fox. Oh yeah, we've reached Titus Software. However, before we get to the main event, let's look at the title they made for the Game Boy, coming out as late as 1997. It ain't even in colour. Now I've barely ever seen this game mentioned at all, so you know, perhaps it's a hidden gem. Of course it's not. In fact, it's the worst game yet. It's a side-scroller where it's impossible to hit enemies without getting hit yourself for a start. The hit detection is completely broken. And you have to hold a button down to fly, even in stages that are almost totally airborne. Just try to hit enemies or control anything while doing that. Just fucking try it. It ain't possible. Believe it or not, this is actually much, much worse than the N64 game. Ah, talking of which... Ah yes, one of the most famous bad games ever. The animation is quite hilarious, and all you ever seem to do is just fly through winds. Superman 64 is basically half a game. Still, I'd have to say, you know, it's not the worst Superman game. I mean, it's awful, but there are actually worse. Even, as we've seen, worse ones that Titus made. In fact, do you know what? I would stick my neck out and say that Superman 64 is at least somewhat memorable. In the right frame of mind, I even find the crude flying amusing and entertaining. I consider it the best game Titus ever made, as opposed to published, although this says more about the level of contempt I have for these baguette-sucking bastards. A studio so bad they could bring shame upon a whole frickin' country. But can you really do much with Superman aside from making him fly through winds? Because honestly, I don't know if you can. And so this is where my search finishes. Now I know there's a couple of other games on the PS2, but I can't play them and, truth be told, I've lost interest. Superman, it seems, is destined to never get a decent title. Even if you were the biggest fan of the Man of Steel around, you'd have to squint really hard to find any of these games acceptable. Can you think of a decent idea for a Superman game? because I sure as hell can't. They say that if something ain't broke, don't fix it. But you know what? The opposite is true. Bluntly put, if something's fucked, then it's fucked. And finally, after 4 long, punishing videos, we have reached the end of S. We're well over the hill now, and soon we'll be taking our final approach. But there are still a few more videos to get to. There'll be a load of turtles in the letter T. Ninjas, heroes, who the hell knows. And the almighty Arnie, star of shitty licensed games everywhere, will return with his signature role. There's no fate but what we make, and our fate is to look at the Terminator. But until then, thanks for watching, and wherever you are, whoever you be, have a good one, take care, and I'll see you next time.